Before buying an investment property, I go through this list and I check for these things, and then I make the decision if this is a property or an investment that's worth making, or should I just look the other way and find the other one. And remember, you do not need an investment property, you want one. So making a rush decision can cost you thousands of dollars. But if you're asking me, Omar, how do you know about real estate? Or if you're new to this channel, my name is Omar Mohammed and I own real estate rentals and a construction business. Last year alone, we did over 50 deals just here in the Pittsburgh market. So we've done so many deals, from bad deals to good deals for us. We help doing it for we only work with investors. In the construction business, we only work with investors. So we've done a lot of deals for other people that some of them went over asking, some are still sitting on the market as we ask. And all of them, I learned something from. I'm gonna share with you my list and how I select deals so it can help you pick the right winner as well. Make sure you stick to the video to the end, because the last few ones I'm sharing are extremely important that will save you thousands of dollars and years of trial. In the beginning, when a deal come across my desk or something gets my attention, the first thing I check is of course the price. So you gotta get familiar with the areas and what our things are selling for. Before I get off my couch and go to a house that I waste time on it, I check the house, check the location, and I check the price, right? So I take a look at a picture. If there's pictures, I open the pictures and I look through, because speed and time kills, especially when you're looking for deals. Like today, I was looking for one, I texted to my realtor and he responded back, just went under a contract. And I literally responded, speed kills. You gotta make sure you're spending the time, which is the most important asset you have, on more worthy deals than others, because there's a lot of bad deals out there. And then I can determine quickly if it's overpriced or underpriced, if it's an opportunity or not. And you can learn that. I have videos talking about what makes a deal a deal. So make sure you subscribe, check the older videos, you'll find some that can help you what actually is a deal. So once I check and I see that it's priced well and it's a good, desirable location. And for location, it really depends. If it's a flip, then there's locations that go fast, right? And from doing it for quite a few years, I know my market well. I know what would go sell high and what would sit on the market for a while or might just have some issues. So if it's a flip, but if it's a rental, I look at the price more because cash flow, right? I personally do not care as much about appreciation. I care about cash flow right now. Going back to it, once I looked at and it passes that, then I set an appointment to go see it. And then the picture also gives you some idea of what to look for. The roof might not look so good in the picture, but you cannot decide. So when I go there, I make a note. So do not make all these calls till you actually see it or send a contractor or somebody you trust to see it. I make some notes when I go there, what do I want to see? So if it is in the right location and priced well, then I go ahead and go check it out before I make my offer. Now, another good tip to check is the ARV, how much spread there is. So if you see it priced at $50,000, but the ARV is $350, you know that's a hell of a deal, right? But you probably should consider, why is it being sold so low? But if it's at $350 ARV and it's being sold for $300, you might see that there's not a whole lot of opportunity there. So you should go there expect it pretty much almost done. So that gives you an idea, the selling price is what condition the property is when you deduct it from the ARV. Now, when I go there, I start by walking outside always, right? Take a look at the roof, take a look at the gutters, fascia board, downspout, just the house from outside. You know, how much water, especially if it's been vacant, which a lot of these houses have been vacant for years. Look how much water have gotten into there, because you might look fine to you till you actually start ripping all this old plaster out and it's really, really in a bad condition. So if I see the roof has been, ignored for years, the gutters are broken, no downspouts, then I know there's probably been some water issue. And then I take a look if there's off-street parking, any benefits I have. I take a look at the electric meter outside. When I see an electric meter, I know that the electric has been on. That's a good sign. These are all things I take in perspective that happen in my mind so quickly, but helps me make the decision. And then I take a look at the houses next door. If it's a flip or if it's a rental, I look at what kind of tenant would want to move here. Things are renting for $2,000, $3,000. $3,000 really doesn't happen in Pittsburgh, but if it's renting close to the $2,000, would the tenant want to live here versus the competition? And then if it's a flip, of course, I take a look at the houses next door, the neighbors, and just for anything that I might not know. Then when I walk into the house, I start thinking about renovation numbers. What all the work that's going to have to go to. So let's say I like all that and I still think it's a good deal. When I walk inside, I start thinking about how much money has to go there. And here's how I do that. I go by order, the demo, just my same list. And if you do not have that list, you can you can leave a comment below, ask me about it, and I will send you a breakdown of a list of I go by. So once I go by my list and calculate my numbers, which is very important to do an estimate, then I go back and I do my homework. But let's talk about the walkthrough a little bit, because a lot of you guys have asked me, what do I really look at? I look at things that, not just flooring, painting, and that. And if you're very new to this would help you. I look for like big ticket items, replumbing, you know, rewiring the house, the service and panels, there's duct work everywhere and it's good, or there's no duct, or the old boilers are busted and broken. And then the windows, the doors, how big is the house, right? The drywall is one of the biggest items that you barely hear people talk about. Will I need to re-drywall this whole house? And then when I make my number, I leave myself a little bit of room. There is 2.5%, there's a study that there's only 2.5% of all construction projects worldwide that finish on time and on budget. So if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what else would. So you gotta make sure you're calculating your numbers really correctly and you're not rushing through the process. Well, once you have these numbers out and you walk the property and you have a good feeling about it, I go back and I run my numbers. If the deal works, what do I mean by that? I look at how much time it's gonna take, how much money is gonna have to be taken into that. And you can say, okay, Omar, well, you're not using your money, you're using hard money, other people's money, whatever it is. But could I have put that money in another 1 or 2 or 3 deals that will have a better return? And I look if that deal works for me. Again, I look at the ARV, let's say it's a flip. I look at what it would sell for. I look how much money needs to be put into this project and then the return. And I could calculate if it's worth it for me or not. I do not look at like, you know, standard 70% rule, whatever people say. I do not do that. I just look if it works for me. Might not work for a lot of people, but if it works for me, I go ahead and seek it. So sometimes for rentals, as an example, I like to buy them cheaper. That takes a lot of work because we can build equity in them. That's what I like. I do not like rentals, as an example, in a nicer neighborhood. Right now, maybe in the future I will, because if I can spend, let's say, $200,000 and buy one house that will rent for 15, or I can spend the same $200,000 and buy 2 houses in a different neighborhood, maybe a little bit lower, but rent for, you know, $2,500, I'll go for number 2 right now. Why? Because I'm thinking about cash flow more. So if the deal works for me and I like it, then I go ahead and I make my offer. The biggest mistake I see people do is they will underestimate their renovation or overpay for a house. So the house, again, might be listed for, let's just say 100,000, and then you know it needs another 100, and then the ARV is like 270, right? Listed for 100, you need to put 100, and the ARV is 270. Then they ask for your best offer by tomorrow. You go ahead and you say, okay, you know what? The 100 for renovation, I'm sure we can cut it down to 70. Let's just offer them 130. No, don't ever do that. And a lot of people do it. I've seen it happen all the time. So make sure if it's take 100, do not go over that. There is another deal sitting out there that you can get it for that. Now, when I see that, and I see that that property is gonna be a good property to put the money in, right? We're not overdoing the work. Sometimes when I see like I'm doing so much work and it takes so much time for a similar return that I can put somewhere else, I walk away. So do not just think about money, think about time. I've done some deals that have taken us closer to a year to finish, and I've made less money on them than deals that took us 2-3 months to finish. Honestly, 1 month to finish. Time plays a big role because that time can be invested in other deals that gives you more return. So once I do that, I make my offer, I get my inspection through. So if you're not a contractor or you do not know a good contractor, make sure you give yourself an inspection period, because one time walking a house will never be enough for you to calculate everything, especially if you're not seasoned and you haven't done that so many times before. So always ask for some period of time where you can walk up with a contractor or 2 to have a bid. One thing that I see a lot of people miss as well is get the sewer line inspected. If you see the house that's old, it's been sitting there for a while, inspect the sewer. I think there's companies out there, Greater Pittsburgh Plumbing or McVeigh, or even if you're in Pittsburgh and reach out to us, we'll camera the sewer for you. They do it for $200-300, I'm not sure, but they will give you an exact report and send you a video of the sewer. It's 100% worth it. Do not go cheap on saving $200 or $300 to, you know, go ahead and spend tens of thousands of dollars, then to find out that there is a sewer issue that costs $20,000 that you did not factor in, that will kill your deal and make you quit real estate. So it's worth spending the money getting the sewer checked. And then I would suggest too to pay attention to knob and tube, and the house need rewires, so no cutting corners. Once you have a very clear scope of work and a good number, then you can feel confident that that deal does work. So if you have gotten value from this video, make sure you subscribe and give us the like, and just let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything I can help you with finding your next deal. And see you all on the next one.